What's up, guys? We are back with another Mythic Legions Wasteland review, taking a look at the newest Goblin in the land of Mythos. We're taking a look at THUMPP today. So this is a very, very weird-looking Goblin with a small body and a massive, goofy-looking head. So I'm very interested to see what's going on here. We've got him in our standard Legions packaging, of course, for the standard figures. Big collector-friendly packaging, so take them out, put them back in. You've got the figure there in the window, bio card on this side, and then the back of the package has our standard artwork since Advent of Decay and a little bit of a write-up for Mythos. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our THUMPP figure. So this guy is kind of an interesting one for me because, well, I thought he was something a little bit different. I thought that he was more in line with Gonks as far as body style, so a goblin using a dwarf body, but this is a goblin using a 2.0 style body, so a smaller body that most of the goblins use. For some reason, I thought he was something different. I think it comes down to the fact that he is so top-heavy when you have his pauldrons on, and his head is enormous to make up for his kind of build and just the idea that he's a little bit bigger on top than on bottom. So I think this is a situation where the pauldrons kind of belong on the figure at all times, because otherwise he kind of looks kind of weird. So we're going to keep him on for this review because that's how I'm going to play around with him. So we've got a head that can look up really far because his head is on a ball peg and it kind of juts forward a little bit. You can tilt down pretty well. He does have a little bobble. There is, of course, rotation, but those big ears are going to hit the pauldron, so just watch out. The arms are where he is most restricted because, frankly, they're just humongous. So you can rotate the pauldrons a little bit, and then the arms go out at the shoulder. They, of course, do have rotation, but they are going to be limited. You've got a single-jointed rotating elbow, as is the case for, the line, and then you've got rotation at the forearm, rotation at the wrist, and then you've got hinges there as well. Being a 2.0 body, he does have a diaphragm cut, so he goes backwards and forwards a little bit better, and then he does have the waist twist down here, so you can get him to kind of hunch forward a little bit, and then you can get him to kind of lean back a little. He does have a little bit of tilt, not too much, but he does have some bobble side to side. Legs go out pretty much all the way. They kick forward all the way. They kick backward all the way. Of course, you can cut at the thigh. We've got single rotating knees, and then you've got rotation, rocker, and hinges down at those ankles. Really nothing in the way on this guy from the waist down. The big hindrances is definitely just the fact that he has a big, massive noggin that sits in between two really big pauldrons. That being said, though, that's the look for this guy. He always looked like he was a little bit bigger than your average goblin to me, and I think a lot of that comes down to the design of the head, how his head kind of sits a little bit forward on the body, how it's also very big, like he's kind of got almost like a frog mouth down there at the bottom, and then they gave him some of my favorite pauldrons in the entire line, but it's just kind of weird to see such big pauldrons on a small body. I do think it works really well, though. It definitely gives off the vibe that he is a little bit beefier than your average figure, but he doesn't necessarily stack up to, say, Gonks in terms of size, but he will definitely look bigger than some of the other ones like Thwick or Nubnik, for example. So stuff like that. He kind of sits in a middle ground between some of the other goblins, which I think is pretty nice. There is a little bit of patina all over his armor, and I keep comparing him to Gonks, but it's kind of the similar thing. Gonks has more of that. He just has a little bit here and there, so there's some orange pitted in his armor on the pauldrons, specifically in the gloves, and then down on the greaves a little bit. He does have kind of the smaller Dark Knight style of armor done up in the gunmetal-y black, but there's a little bit of an overspray on it of almost a gold tinge in some areas. Maybe it's more of a yellow, but it certainly looks a little sparkly to me. And in general, I just dig the way this guy looks. He, of course, is limited because of this look. You could take the pauldrons off and he's going to move a little bit better, but he looks a little bit more goofy that way just because he has such a big, massive head. Otherwise, though, I think he looks really cool just at a base level. The head sculpt, though, is, I think, really the defining characteristic of this guy, because it's really the only thing that's truly unique about him, and it is very different from some of the other Goblin figures. So this thing sits between these two massive pauldrons. He's got that spiked gorget that sits under his chin and around his neck, which is removable if you really wanted to get customizing going with this guy. But he's got like that big frog mouth. He's got those really tiny, beady yellow eyes, and just like the little pock marks and specks and spots on his chin there with the teeth sticking out, and this big, massive skull cap of a helmet I think works really well because it is incredibly pitted and just dented and cracked and creviced, and it's still a little bit shinier than the rest of his armor, so I think it kind of contrasts a little bit. And then you've also got those massive goblin ears to kind of give a very distinctive look across this particular, I guess, race in this line, while at the same time giving him a really, really specific look with this, frankly, just fat head. Now, as far as accessories goes, Thump comes with kind of a standard assortment. Nothing too crazy here. It's just a handful of 2.0 style accessories that kind of fit him, one that I think kind of goes along with his name at least. Of course, you've got the pauldrons, which we've already talked about. You don't have to use them. I think they look great on him. They really add to the idea behind this figure, I think. He does come with the strap, so you can put a weapon around his waist or something. This guy did not come with wing adapters. Maybe that was a mistake. I don't know. Frankly, don't need them, so it's not a big deal. And then we've got 3 weapons. So we've got this axe with a wooden handle, and then you've got the gunmetal for the actual metal on it. We've got 1/2 of what is usually a 2-sided weapon, and either I'm missing a piece or they just decided that he couldn't handle it, which is fine. I don't think these smaller figures really work well with both sides of this. And I'm assuming it's red because his bio indicates that he works alongside Gorgo Aetherblade in the mythos, and he is covered in red, so that probably ties in there. And then we've got this big boy here, which we've seen with other figures. One of the dwarf come with him, the king, I believe. And I think this works really well to give the idea, just Thump. The name Thump makes it sound to me like he should be wielding a big hammer. And this is a big hammer. I mean, it's way taller than he is. It is just kind of a humongous piece of plastic with a lot of black on it. Gunmetal-y black, and then you've got a little bronze accents and the red jewel in there. Again, something that probably signifies the Gorgo Aetherblade tie-in. So this is probably going to be my weapon of choice. He holds it really well, surprisingly, for being so big. It is a little heavy, so you do have to position it correctly, but it does add a lot of oomph to this figure when he's got it in hand. This is a pretty solid little goblin. He's definitely not my favorite goblin. It's going to be really hard to unseat Gonks for me. I just really dig that one. But this guy works pretty well. Again, I was really surprised when I finally saw this figure kind of get fleshed out a little bit more to realize that he wasn't on a bigger style body. I could have sworn that he was on a dwarf body rather than one of the small 2.0 bodies. It does make for some odd proportions with this guy, but not in a negative way. It just makes him look a little bit more different than some of the other figures because he has such a big fat head, and he has those really massive pauldrons. It makes him look really top heavy, really bulky, really beefy, and I do like that. I like the patina that they gave the armor. It kind of ties into Gonks in terms of that color scheme, and that works for me just because I like him. And he comes with a pretty solid array of accessories. There's really not a lot to complain about on this guy, except for the fact that he is limited when it comes to movement when he has those pauldrons on. They just plain are big on him, and they kind of get in the way. Otherwise, though, he's a pretty solid figure and definitely a good addition to the Goblin ranks. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mythic Legion's Wasteland THUMPP. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.